3 of Inktober, and well, I'm getting really into it, as you can tell. Just using my pen as always, and not using a pencil. If you're not familiar with the thing already, it's Inktober, and we're, of course, it's 2020. Hopefully there's a load more people joining in this year, as every single day you get a different word or different prompt for the 31 days of October. Now, that sounds like a daunting task. Well, if you like to illustrate, then it's a good way to challenge yourself. I challenged myself last year and really enjoyed it, so I'm doing it again this year. We're using pretty much the same pen as we did last year. And we're getting some comments. Give me a second, I'll pull those up. But yeah, we're doing stuff. Give me a second. But yeah, if you're now joining, we are live, so more than welcome to leave some comments coming in. And I'll turn that down so you can't hear myself double. And we've got Harry saying, hello, how you doing there, buddy? Again, I was just explaining what Inktober is. Are you familiar with Inktober yourself? I'll just let you leave a question. I can see the prompts coming up here, as you can see up in the little docker over here, because we are up over on the PlayStation today. Because my PC has decided it was going to die. If you don't remember me putting out a few other videos, go and check those out about other information on that. But if you're willing and wanting some of my illustrations I've done from last year, and if you want something from this year, I can go to the local printing shop, which we're quite familiar with, and we'll get things printed out. If you want some polymer clay, later after Inktober, I'm going to be going back to polymer clay, because I think after 31 days of doing a ink drawing without being able to sketch it with a pencil is going to drive me insane, like it did last year. So I'm going to want to do something else. So think if you want to do that, don't forget to hit subscribe for that one. You're not really, so I'm explaining anyway. So yeah, Inktober is 31 days with one. You can sketch. The rules have been bent. But the original rules, which I go by, is you only use a pen with an ink pen, no pencil, so no mechanical pencil, no any kind of pencil whatsoever this week and next week and the whole of this month. Just a pen. And you know what the pen is you can use any pen you want as well. I will be using other different kinds of pen, like this is a Copic marker. I can also use, if I wish, this kind of pencil. Pencil, what am I talking about? This kind of pen. This kind of pen, any kind of pen, Sharpies to Crayola to even if you want to get a big sheet of paper and do an illustration every single day, you can use one of these here. It doesn't really matter what kind of pen. I prefer this one because it's like a pencil. But we are on day 3, and the words for day 1 was fish. I will show you that one. I'll give you a flash at least, because if you haven't seen on TikTok, you can find all the illustrations that I've done over on TikTok. If you're not a fan already, definitely go and check those out. Otherwise, you can go to Instagram if you are already following me over there. But I coloured them. Crap, I can't actually show you because I'm leaving that to the end of the month. But that was day 1, was fish. I have coloured that one. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because I want to give it a little bit of surprise at the end of the month, because I am making a video like I am recording this. So Alexa, can you set me a timer for 56 minutes?
For how long?
56 minutes.
56 minutes. Starting now.
Thank you very much. Because this was day 2. Again, you probably have seen them, but if you want to see them as they are, or as they were before I inked them, you're going to have to go and check out the live stream from yesterday in day 1. But today's day 3. We need a fresh sheet of paper and a pen and an idea. So I'm going to have to put those comments away for a second or two until I've shown you what ideas I had myself for. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to slide that sheet. Because what I've noticed with this pen, or using pen, and you're definitely using the Copic markers, because I'm quite saturating, I need a sheet underneath. So that would be handy, the pink pig from the very beginning. If you remember the beginning of this book, then yeah. Right, so what we got to find our pig jars, or I'm using references. I always use a reference. Firstly, because it's easier. Can I get that in frame up top there? I got that stupid little camera up there again. I keep remaining to remove that, but let's put that there. The references I had were, let's turn this on the side, you can actually see a bit better. There we go. A little bit better than what I wanted you to do. Why does it do that to me? I hate your phone. Alright. So, yesterday was Wallow. Well, no, it's Wisp, sorry. Today is, like I said, today's bulky. And I thought to myself, instead of doing a bulky person or fat person, as what I was commonly thinking people might do, I thought I'd do, or a suitcase, something's too heavy. I thought there was a funny episode in the episode of Simpsons many years ago where they had to, I think it was a dream that Bart or Homer or somebody or Marge maybe you have had, when they were working in a fish factory and they had kept doing the same thing over and over, of a repetitive job. One of their arms got bulky, whereas the other one stayed as a skinny, normal arm. So they were only working out one arm. So that's where I kind of went with it. And I thought, what has an extremely repetitive job? Because you don't work, when you work in a factory, you don't have a repetitive job because the machine does it all for you. Where the only repetitive jobs are, you're washing dishes continuously, which I used to do. But there were even more repetitive than that, is frying something on a frying pan or on a slick or something. Because you're standing there and you're going, meat, flip the meat, flip the meat, flip the meat. That's all you're doing. Right, so think of that repetitive thing, and a fry man or a fry dude or a cook. Should we call him more of a cook than a fry person? But what I was thinking is, because I can't do faces very well, I was going to be doing more cartoony thing today. So I was thinking maybe a fry, with the idea that I said, with one bulky arm, he's standing there getting freaking out because he's getting so many orders, maybe. Sort of came with the fat chunky one. I thought, no, that's just a bit too on the nose. Let's just have one arm, have it chunky like that. But that was my idea, and that was my sort of where I'm going with it. So let's write it down on the thing before I forget again. The word is bulky. And I will not be talking very much at all through today's video or today's live stream. You can still leave some comments in. They will still pop up on the screen. I'll still answer them. But I am going to be really concentrating, because once you put pen down, there ain't no erasing it. And I like my pencil because of that reason, that you can erase the line that you went, oh, no, I didn't mean to put that there. Well, you can't do that with pen. So, yeah, we'll be listening to continuing to listen to the DC Infinity Crisis audiobook part 3 now. It's a lengthy one. If you want to go and check it out yourself, you're more than welcome to. There is no visuals with it. It's literally just audio, because it's an audiobook. If you want me to listen to anything or any audiobooks that you know about, or if you have created yourself, don't forget to leave me and drop me a line in the comments today. Or if you want to private chat me, you can also go over to, again, TikTok or Instagram, which is the same name, Blut084. BLUT084. Art and Games. That gets a drawing. I have to need a ruler of some sort, I think, because straight lines, but we got a controller. I'm thinking more of something like that. Take half the page, and there's the fryer, maybe like that, maybe, and have the fryer here, sort of thing, or the person, or the cook. But his bulky arm, maybe left or right. I'm not sure which kind of pose. I kind of like that pose there. But I want to kind of flip it so he's turning the other way. But I don't think that would work for the way I'm trying to draw it. So yeah, we'll probably look for more actual frying, what they look like. Because I want to put a desk. I want to put a desk. Or just want to have it like a serving hatch. He's standing. Because you don't stand there with it, oven. I mean, when you're frying it, I've done it many times. I've seen it in so many restaurants, where you're literally against one thing, a wall, unless you've got a thing in the middle. But yeah, anyway, we've got him standing there, freaking out, because I want to give it enough space so I can get things in there. Maybe put some people down behind, sort of shouting at it to the chef as he's creating more and more. Something like that. I'm not sure. Let's get that going on. so I can have a little think and not have to babble.
Playing from me,
Of course you are.
SNT110.
Yes, that's lovely. Shut up. Let's continue.
The astral plane. The rock of eternity floated in a vast nothingness, separated from the mortal realm by subtle layers of perception. The craggy spire resembled a mountain peak joined to its own inverted reflection,
Sweets.
so that it tapered to
Do
a
you
point both
recommend
above
sweets?
and below. For over 3,000 years, the rock had been home to its sole inhabitant, the mighty wizard known as Shazam. But today, the mage's extra-dimensional stronghold was under attack.
Stand aside, mortal. You have fought well, but the outcome has already been written. The wizard's doom is at hand.
Forget it! Captain Marvel flew between the Spectre and the Rock of Eternity. A golden thunderbolt was emblazoned on the double-breasted tunic of his bright red uniform. More gold trimmed his flowing white cape. A golden sash girded his waist. His boyish face held a look of intense determination. The strength of a demigod bulged within his muscular frame.
I'm just getting warmed up.
His battle with the vengeful ghost had carried them from the skies above Eastern Europe to the very doorstep of Shazam's mystical sanctuary. Captain Marvel owed his own superhuman powers to the old wizard's magic. He sure as heck wasn't going to let the Spectre get to Shazam without a fight.
Stay away from him, Ghost. I'm warning you.
The Spectre hovered in the ether several yards away. His bone-white face and flesh was partially hidden by a voluminous dark green cloak that billowed around him, blown about by astral winds that seemed to presage a growing storm in the spiritual plane. A monkish hood cast the gaunt contours of the ghost's face into shadow. Miniature skulls grinned at the center of his sunken eye sockets, a phosphorescent glow where the pupils of his eyes should have been.
I shall stop when all magic is destroyed. Sorcery corrupts the natural order of things. Only when it has been extinguished completely will evil wither on the vine.
But the wizard isn't evil.
As always, Captain Marvel took care not to say Shazam's name aloud.
He's one of the good guys, just like you used to be.
According to the wizard, the Spectre's power was supposed to be bound to the soul of a departed mortal, so that his supernatural wrath could be tempered by a sense of humanity. But freak events had recently separated the Spectre from his previous host. Now the fearsome entity had become a menace to both innocent and guilty alike. Unchecked by a human conscience, the Spectre's judgment had become impaired, and perhaps manipulated by parties unknown. He glided toward the waiting hero.
My mission is beyond your understanding, boy. Stand no longer between me and my vengeance.
Captain Marvel gulped. The eerie apparition before him was no ordinary spook. The Spectre was to other ghosts, but he and Superman were to regular humans. Maybe more so.
Well, I'm no pushover either.
As Captain Marvel, he possessed the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Hopefully, that would be enough to save the wizard from the rampaging spirit. The Spectre advanced on Captain Marvel. The hero swung his fist at the ghost, but his bare knuckles passed through the Spectre's ectoplasmic substance without effect. It was like punching through an icy fog. A bone-chilling cold penetrated his fist. Captain Marvel swung wildly at the immaterial spirit.
Cheater! Fight me like a person, you cowardly ghost!
Your callow taunts mean little to me, youth. No more than this futile display of aggression.
The Spectre's green cloak spread out behind him, whipped about by the winds.
Though you may be imbued with the power of bygone deities, I am the very wrath of God. And I have tarried too long already.
Just as he had done above Budapest less than an hour before, the Spectre expanded in size until he dwarfed the Rock of Eternity itself. He stared down at Captain Marvel, who looked like an action figure by comparison. The gigantic wraith towered over the outmatched hero.
Ugh. No.
The night air had an expectant quality.
Give me a second. Give me a second, we can get there. But of course. Oh, it's taking us right out of the zone.
Of outer space, John's extraterrestrial heart sank as he contemplated the images.
We'll
It
stay from
seemed as
there.
though the entire universe had gone insane. On one screen,
Where are we?
intercepted TV news footage showed both heroes and villains battling against the ruthless blue cyborgs known as OMACs, short for Observational Metahuman Activity Construct. The OMACs at
There.
first started appearing.
The ancient horrors!
Lies.
Fury contorted the Spectre's features.
No.
Enough to wreak havoc on nearly every plane of existence.
Reality must be cleansed and purged. Only then can I go to my eternal reward.
I will fight you if I must, if you force my hand. But my fervent hope is that we can reason together. You are not well, Spectre. Your mind and judgment.
Miniature skulls grinned at the center of his sunken eye sockets, a phosphorescent glow where the pupils of his eyes should have been.
Oh man, I'm
I shall
lost.
stop when all magic is destroyed. Sorcery corrupts the natural order of things. Only when it has been extinguished completely will evil wither on the vine.
But the wizard isn't evil.
Yeah,
As
okay,
always,
stay here.
Captain Marvel took care not to say Shazam's name aloud.
He's one of the good guys, just like you used to be.
According to the wizard, the Spectre's power was supposed to be bound to the soul of a departed mortal, so that his supernatural wrath could be tempered by a sense of humanity. But freak events had recently separated the Spectre from his previous host. Now the fearsome entity had become a menace to both innocent and guilty alike. Unchecked by a human conscience, the Spectre's judgment had become impaired, and perhaps manipulated by parties unknown. He glided toward the waiting hero.
My mission is beyond your understanding, boy. Stand no longer between me and my vengeance.
Captain Marvel gulped. The eerie apparition
Jimmy,
before
second,
him was
what
no
you saying?
ordinary spook. The Spectre was to other ghosts.
Oh,
what he and
fine,
Superman
you do what
were
I
to
want you to
regular
do.
humans. Maybe more so.
Well, I'm no pushover either.
As Captain Marvel, he
Oh,
possessed
good
the
again.
wisdom of
Good, good,
Solomon, the
good.
strength
Already
of
on.
Hercules,
Yeah,
the
whatever.
stamina of Atlas,
See you later,
the
mate.
power of Zeus,
Check the
courage of Achilles,
stream if you want
and
to see
the
how it
speed of
finished, or you can go
Mercury.
on TikTok and Instagram,
Hopefully
like I was
that would
saying.
be enough to save the wizard from the rampaging spirit. The Spectre advanced on Captain Marvel. The hero swung his fist at the ghost, but his bare knuckles passed through the Spectre's ectoplasmic substance without effect. It was like punching through an icy fog. A bone-chilling cold penetrated his fist. Captain Marvel swung wildly at the immaterial spirit.
Cheater! Fight me like a person, you cowardly ghost!
Your callow taunts mean little to me, youth. No more than this futile display of aggression.
The Spectre's green cloak spread out behind him, whipped about by the winds.
Though you may be imbued with the power of bygone deities, I am the very wrath of God. And I have tarried too long already.
Just as he had done above Budapest less than an hour before, the Spectre expanded in size until he dwarfed the Rock of Eternity itself. He stared down at Captain Marvel, who looked like an action figure by comparison. The gigantic wraith towered over the outmatched hero.
Shazam!
A bolt of mystic lightning struck Captain Marvel, turning him back into his juvenile alter ego. A teenage boy in a red sweatshirt and blue jeans instantly appeared in place of the hero.
What?
Billy Batson's abrupt transformation caught him by surprise. He began to tumble through the empty space.
You can't do that! The magic word only works for me!
The Spectre's thin lips curled in amusement.
You'll find I have whatever powers I require.
The Spectre caught the falling teen in the palm of his hand, which had become solid enough to support the startled mortal.
Now sleep, child, while I attend to your master.
His cheeks expanded, and he blew a clammy green mist over Billy. The narcotic fumes invaded the boy's lungs. An irresistible wave of fatigue washed over Billy. He struggled to keep his eyes open.
No, I have to stay awake. Shazam is depending on me.
His mouth opened to say the magic word that would transform him back into Captain Marvel, but his groggy thoughts could barely remember the proper syllables. Darkness encroached on his vision. Ghosts and goblins troubled his sleep.
No.
In his throne room, deep within the Rock of Eternity, the wizard Shazam stared into the billowing smoke rising from a brazier of red-hot coals. In the turbulent vapors, he saw the specter carry Billy toward an arched gateway carved into the side of the floating rock. The victorious ghost shrunk back down to human proportions as he approached the murky portal. A gloved hand gripped the unconscious boy by the collar. The specter passed through the gateway, entering a dimly lit tunnel leading into the very heart of the wizard's sanctuary. He dropped Billy onto the floor of the ancient catacomb. Shazam winced at the sight of the valiant child, lying limply on the cold stone. Billy tossed fitfully on the floor. The specter's voice emerged from the smoke ascending before the old wizard.
Savor your nightmares, boy, until I turn my attention upon you once more.
Leaving Billy behind, the ghost floated down the rough-hewn corridor, his feet never touching the floor.
I am coming for you, Shazam. Prepare to meet your maker.
The wizard watched the specter make his way toward the throne room, along a limestone tunnel, its floor worn smooth by the passage of centuries. Jagged stalactites hung from the ceiling.
I see through your strategy now, mage.
The specter wafted through the wizard's many protective wards as though they didn't exist. Eldritch energy crackled in his wake.
You hoped I would expend my strength on your naive young pawn, while you marshal your insignificant resources. The pagan gods empowering Captain Marvel made him a tempting target, to be sure. But I can be distracted no longer. Better to root out the source of the contagion, the very font of evil.
The specter passed a row of grotesque statues lined up along the left wall. Squatting like malignant Buddhas, the petrified figures were none other than the 7 deadly sins, tracked by Shazam in the far-off days of his youth. No mere representations, these were the actual demons themselves, permanently encased in stone. Pride, avarice, lust, wrath, gluttony, envy, and sloth crouched ominously upon granite pedestals inscribed with their names. Eternal flames blazed at the feet of the sins, part of the binding spell that held them in place. Their leering expressions embodied all that was wicked and unworthy in the human soul. The wizard feared that their long captivity was finally at an end. Shazam leaned back against his marble throne, bracing himself for the struggle to come. An old man whose long white beard matched his stately robe, he looked like Father Time himself. A bald dome crowned his venerable countenance. A huge stone block, not unlike those that had been used to construct the pyramids back in the days of the pharaohs, hung by a slender thread above him. A constant reminder of his mortality, the block had been suspended above the throne for close to 3 millennia. A potent collection of mystic idols and artifacts, accumulated over many mortal lifetimes, rested on carved stone shelves around the edges of the throne room. The wizard's most recent acquisition, a blue crystal scarab, occupied a place of honor upon a nearby stone pedestal. Burning incense scented the air.
The day I long feared has come.
Shazam observed the specter's inexorable progress down the lonely corridor. A sense of resignation settled into his ancient bones. He had never truly expected Captain Marvel to defeat the specter, nor even significantly hold off the murderous ghost. The hero's sole purpose had been to buy Shazam time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation.
Billy did all that could be asked of him, and more. Now I must ensure that his mighty labors were not in vain.
There you are, mage.
An icy chill accompanied the specter as he entered the throne room. He glided up the low stone steps. The somber cloak was draped around him like a shroud.
Let us be about our work quickly. I have much yet to do. Many more to devour still.
Shazam rose from his throne. Despite his years, he displayed no trace of weakness or infirmity.
You have done quite enough, I think.
Over the last few days, the Spectre had slain over 700 sorcerers, consumed numerous earthbound demons and jinn, and laid waste to magical temples and enchanted forests across the globe. Even the ageless lords of order and chaos had fallen victim to his merciless crusade. The spiritual warfare was spilling over into the physical realm as well, triggering freak storms, earthquakes, and other disturbances all over the planet.
Enough to wreak havoc on nearly every plane of existence.
Reality must be cleansed and purged. Only then can I go to my eternal reward.
I will fight you if I must, if you force my hand. But my fervent hope is that we can reason together. You are not well, Spectre. Your mind and judgment have been corrupted by sinister forces whose true nature I have yet to determine.
Shazam looked for some sign that his words had penetrated the madness that had overtaken the wrath of God. In years past, the Spectre had been a mighty force for good. More than once, the near-omnipotent spirit had saved the cosmos itself from utter destruction. But that was before the Spectre shed his human host, before an unknown instigator whispered lies into his ear. The Spectre sneered at the wizard. Contempt showed upon his bloodless features.
Do you think to understand me? Do you truly imagine that I would look for wisdom in the insipid babble of a child?
Shall I give it hair? I don't know if I should give it hair.
All of your years compared to mine. Lifespan of a mayfly.
I don't want it to go into a Smeagol kind of thing though. But no, I can't.
Then an ant can know the mind and will of the Almighty.
I've got to take a picture of that before I do anything else to it.
It was clear that the Spectre could not be reasoned with. Only dire measures could halt his rampage of destruction.
What must be, must be.
Enough delay.
The Spectre lunged forward, seizing the wizard by the throat. Corpse-like hands closed tightly about Shazam's neck, even as the Spectre's supernatural might clashed with the mystic.
You know what, actually, I'm going to do a TikTok live here.
Energy flashed and hissed.
But I'm going to start it now, and we'll do it at the end and see what you can see at the end on TikTok.
Since your kind finds nobility in dying for a lost cause, receive this from me as a gift.
Where should I start it?
The life being choked from his body, but he was not yet prepared to surrender. Taking hold of the Spectre's wrists, he tugged the wraith's cold hands away from his throat.
Your overconfidence is misplaced, Ghost. You are still weakened from days of struggle, while I am in my place of power. The outcome of this battle is far from decided.
There we go. Right, we'll go on started. You'll see how it turns out at the end, or over on TikTok.
The Spectre yanked his wrists free from the wizard's grasp. Turning away from physical conflict for the moment, he rose into the air above Shazam.
I need not lay my hands upon you to destroy you.
And hurled a blast of necromantic energy at his aged opponent. Shazam gestured quickly. A shimmering golden barrier manifested between them, shielding him from the Spectre's wrath. Undeterred by the wizard's defenses, the Spectre bombarded the luminous barrier with bolt after bolt of destructive willpower.
Right,
The deadly hexes
back to
flashed
references.
and conjurations. The wizard was hard pressed to defend himself against the Spectre's
Right.
relentless assault.
If he's standing there, something's got to be down here, and he's got to be around about there. And that's where he's going to cut off, because his legs are going to be covering something, because he's standing in front of something. So shit, what have I done? Maybe that's a sink, maybe that's a serving hatch, and he's standing in the back here.
Ages before fabled Atlantis sank beneath the waves. Unseen presences chanted in the spaces between the tongue-twisting syllables. The immeasurable forces unleashed within the throne room began to take their toll on the Eternal Chamber. Deflected curses ricocheted off Shazam's defenses, striking against the timeless stone walls. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling.
We'll draw him in, see what we can do afterwards. We'll got to put the character in and put the setting around it this time.
Torches sputtered in their sconces. The collected talismans shook violently
Well,
upon
what would
their
he be
shelves,
doing?
while the hanging stone block swung back and forth upon its slender thread.
Skinny as all
The
hell,
air
yeah,
smelled of
okay.
ozone and
Right.
brimstone. A stalactite crashed to earth in the tunnel beyond.
Spectre, you have to stop this insanity before it goes too far. Don't you know what you're doing? You're breaking magic.
Exactly my intent.
Shazam staggered beneath the barrage, but his shields held together nonetheless.
No, you think you're destroying it, but magic cannot be extinguished. It can only change form. What you're doing is breaking magic back down to its original wild forms by destroying ages of meticulously crafted spells, wordings, and containments.
The wizard's soul quailed at the very prospect, not for himself, but for the rest of humanity.
You'll bring back the chaos that ruled before we learned to tame it. You'll unbind the ancient horrors.
Lies.
Fury contorted the specter's features.
Foul lies and nonsense.
Going on the offensive, Shazam loosed a bolt of enchanted lightning. It sent the specter flying backward out of the throne room. The ghost smashed into the 7 deadly sins, cracking the petrified shell, imprisoning anger. Fissures spread across the rocky facade. Noxious vapors rose from the cracks. The blood-red fumes infiltrated the specter's ectoplasmic form, spurring the ghost's fury to new heights.
Fight on if you must, or simply lie down and die.
He came barreling back into the throne room like a phantasmal comet, trailing wisps of anger behind him.
But do so in silence!
He burst through Shazam's shimmering barrier. Shards of golden light flew apart before dissolving back into nothingness. The specter clasped his hands around the wizard's skull. Ghostly fingers sank into Shazam's temples as the specter strove to crush the old man's balding cranium like a nutshell. Veins pulsed on the wizard's forehead as he writhed in pain. Blood trickled from his nose.
Give up, rage. It is nearly over now. Let the final darkness take you.
Not yet.
Summoning all his concentration, Shazam beckoned to the crystal scarab lying on the stone pedestal several paces away. The ancient Egyptian artifact, which had once empowered the original Blue Beetle in his battle against evil, had eventually fallen into the hands of that hero's successor. Shazam had recently claimed the scarab from Theodore Cord, only days before the mortal's tragic murder. Unseen by the specter, who remained intent on crushing his enemy's skull, the scarab rose from its pedestal and zoomed toward his back at lightning speed. The ghost was taken by surprise as the thaumaturgically charged talisman passed through him like a cannonball. A look of pain racked the specter's ghastly visage. He stumbled backward, releasing his hold on the wizard's head. He clutched at the gaping wound in his chest. Formless green vapors gushed like blood from the ragged gash.
What have you done?
Shazam stood defiantly before the injured spirit.
As I said, you stand within my place of power.
Bloody but unbowed, the wizard raised his arms above his head. His long white beard was whipped about by the winds as he stood squarely upon his sandaled feet.
And it is full of so many powerful things.
At his command, a score of ancient relics flew from their respective shelves and altars. Charms, crystals, idols, pendants, fetishes, and sacrificial blades joined the azure scarab in orbit around the old man's imposing form. A preternatural glow surrounded each of the levitating objects.
You should never have hated the gibbering voices that prodded you, maddened you, and finally drove you to this maniacal crusade. And you should never have come here.
Shazam threw an accusing finger at the specter. The sacred icons tore through the specter's body. The specter crashed to the floor, landing in a heap amidst the rocky debris. Peering through the dust and smoke, Shazam saw the ghost's dark green cloak lying in tatters on the floor. He could not readily tell what, if anything, remained of the specter beneath the crumpled shroud.
Is that it?
The wizard lowered his arms. His shoulders slumped with fatigue. The titanic clash had taken everything he had, but he appeared to have prevailed. He had misread the omens. The future had not proven as hopeless as he had feared.
A pity that I was compelled to destroy the Spectre. Will the higher powers now choose a new vessel for their wrath?
He knew he should check on young Billy, but he took a moment to catch his breath. The duel had taken much from him. He felt every one of his 5,000 years. Still, there would be time enough to recover now that the immediate threat had passed. He waved a hand, and the floating talismans gently descended to the floor.
At last, the storm has abated. Now, the healing can commence.
The shredded green cloak rustled on the floor, then lurched up into the air. The back of the cloak faced Shazam, concealing what lay hidden beneath its folds, until it slowly spun around to reveal a ghastly apparition. The Spectre had seen better days. Both his garb and the battered form beneath it were torn to ribbons. Half his face was missing, exposing a rotting skull beneath his pallid flesh. Green slime bled from an empty eye socket. Churning ectoplasm boiled and bubbled across his torso. Fractured brown bones showed through melted muscles and sinews. The reek of putrefaction assailed Shazam's nostrils.
Ignorant, backworld conjurer. Did you think me destroyed? I am the undying spirit of vengeance. I shall exist as long as there's a need for dark judgment and divine retribution.
Before the wizard's despairing eyes, the Spectre literally pulled himself together. His form and substance took shape once more, the roiling ectoplasm flowing back into its accustomed shape. The mangled face restored itself. Phantasmal skin covered the naked bones.
I should have known this was not over yet. Can one truly slay the ghost?
The prospect of resuming the battle filled Shazam with dread.
I can never be permanently drained of power until all magic is gone. In duress, I can take magic from anywhere. From this fortress, from the many enchanted baubles that you flung at me, and even from you!
The Spectre levitated above the rubble, completely restored to his original appearance. His arms outstretched, he absorbed raw magic from all directions. Crackling streams of occult energy converged on the Spectre, strengthening him. Magic poured from the very walls and foundations of the throne room, as well as from the mystic talismans that had ripped into pieces only moments before. Shazam was driven backward by the stolen power radiating from the Spectre. He retreated fearfully, all the way to the foot of his marble throne. The wizard tried to summon up a protective counterspell, but the crazed ghost moved at the speed of thought. A verse from a German poet popped irrationally into Shazam's mind. For the dead travel fast. An intangible hand sunk into the wizard's chest. He felt an icy fist close tightly around his heart. His vital energy, his anima, drained out of him, sucked from the very marrow of his being. His limbs went numb. His withered body trembled. For one endless moment, his inconceivably long life seemed to play out before his mind's eye, and he saw himself as he once was, a young shepherd in Canaan, 5,000 years ago. Then the awful pressure on his heart jolted him back to the present, and he found himself face to face with a homicidal ghost. He stared into skull-filled eyes and saw death gazing back at him.
Give me your magic, wizard. Give me it all.
Darkness beckoned, but before Shazam could breathe his last breath, his fading consciousness kept him cruelly aware of the enormity of all that was transpiring around him. The rock of eternity was coming apart. The monumental edifice began to crumble to pieces as the spells maintaining it rapidly dissolved. Unable to hold its temper on the astral plane, the disintegrating rock started to drift randomly through nearby dimensions. For a few fleeting seconds, it shuddered into the sky over the world of 700 stoic gods, whose universe would exist only so long as they continued to fast and chant in their remote mountain temple. A great slab of rock sheared off from the western face of the rock, crashing down on that very temple. An unsuspecting cosmos blinked out of existence. A heartbeat later, the decaying stronghold careened briefly through the vertiginous realm of Morpheus, so that for the merest second, the rock of eternity could be glimpsed simultaneously in the dreams of all who slept. Chunks of magical rock went spiraling off from the craggy fortress, breeding nightmares wherever they came to rest, slumbering helplessly within the tunnel leading to the wizard's lair, not far from the 7 deadly sins, fighting off imaginary demons.
Forgive me, Billy. It pains me to leave you in such jeopardy.
Shazam prayed that the courageous boy would somehow survive the Spectre's rampage.
You are my greatest champion.
Yet more stony fragments went flying as the rock tumbled through 100 dimensions in as many seconds, while deep within the dying stronghold, the Spectre finally let go of Shazam's tortured heart. Only the faintest pulse of life still stirred within the wizard's depleted body as he dropped back onto his throne for the last time. A frayed thread snapped above his head, and the immense stone block finally crashed down upon Shazam. At the very moment that the Rock of Eternity materialized high above the earth, one final thought flashed through the old man's mind.
So it ends. For now.
And the wizard Shazam was no more.
Oh damn, was that it? No, there's more. Good, good, good. Getting there.
The night air had an expectant quality. There was a peculiar stillness to the atmosphere, which seemed charged with electricity. Swollen clouds obscured the stars. The moon had an odd red sheen.
Feels like a storm coming on.
Detective Crispus Allen, an African-American police officer currently assigned to Gotham's Major Crimes Unit, peered out at the evening through a pair of wire-framed glasses. A rumpled trench coat hung loosely over his body, but his neatly shaved skull was uncovered.
Good thing I grabbed my coat on my way out the door. I may need it before tonight is over.
He sat behind the wheel of an unmarked police car. The vehicle was parked on a quiet street west of Grant Park, safely distant from any over-inquisitive ears and eyes back at headquarters. Taking no chances, he rolled up the driver's side window, despite the warm weather outside.
I've almost got him, Renee.
His partner was seated beside him.
I've been putting the squeeze on Kinsey about those missing keys of heroin. A few more days, and I'm sure I can get him to flip on Corrigan.
Jim Corrigan was the lead crime scene technician assigned to the Western Division headquarters of the Gotham City Police Department. In a city known for its crooked cops, Corrigan was one of the dirtiest. He was the ringleader of an entire cadre of corrupt police officers and detectives involved in every manner of graft, extortion, and abuse. Stolen drugs, evidence tampering, bribery, blackmail. Corrigan had his hand in it all. Exposing him had become a personal crusade for Allen.
I'm taking him down, Renee, and I'm going to do it so it sticks. No dismissals, no disappearing evidence, no technicalities, no deals. I'm going to nail that bastard for good.
Just be careful, Chris.
Detective Renee Montoya's shoulder holster was strapped on over a gray turtleneck sweater. Her long black hair was tied up in the back. She gave him a worried look.
Corrigan has half the cops at Western on his payroll. If he finds out you're closing in on him...
Oh, shall I give him... Gosh, I want him to be like kind of scruffy, but like because he's ragged out, he just wears good stuff. He's ragged out, you know what I mean? Or should I just have him wearing a sweaty, sweaty top thing?
He had beaten the snot out of him in the back alley behind Finnegan's bar. She had gotten the missing bullet back from him, but at a cost. She was tainted when it came to giving evidence against Corrigan.
I love frying!
Against the corrupt CSA boss.
Oh, the only choice I have now left is to put me on the fire. This is how I must end. Fry me. I must be fried.
Alan and Montoya
Oh, there's this thing on
exchanged
YouTube.
anxious
I wonder if I can find it,
freaks
and I'll
with
link it maybe
CCTV
down below.
code for the
Oh
costumed
dear.
psychopaths who infested the city.
God! God! Oh, God! It's the Riddler! And God! All units respond. Cathedral Square, 1033.
The square was only a few blocks away. Alan pulled away from the curb and hit the gas. Montoya plopped a flashing blue bubble onto the roof of the car. She took hold of the radio and spoke sharply into the mic.
Charlie, Tango 4, mobile, responding. Be advised, Charlie, Tango 4, now 32 Baker.
Alan floored it, and the car raced south on Burton Avenue. Peering up through the windshield, Alan saw that the bat signal had already been activated. The silhouette of a winged nocturnal predator stood out in the center of a bright white searchlight that shone in the sky like a second moon.
Never a good sign.
All units, suspects identified as the Riddler, Murmur, the Body Doubles, Red Panzer, the Ventriloquist, and the Fisherman.
Jesus Christ. The lunatics are coming out of the woodwork tonight. Must be something in the air.
At least he didn't mention the Joker or Two-Face.
Thank heaven for small favors.
Turning left on Andrew Street, the car sped toward Cathedral Square. As its name suggested, the open plaza was dominated by the looming Gothic presence of Gotham Cathedral. Leering stone gargoyles gazed down at what had become a war zone. Black and white squad cars were parked haphazardly around the square, many with their windows and tires shot out. Inky black smoke rose from the chassis of an overturned police van that had apparently collided with a toppled street lamp. Water gushed from a shattered hydrant. Uniformed police officers crouched behind their vehicles, taking cover from a barrage of gunfire that seemed to be coming from the other side of the square. Muzzles flared in the distance, but the besieged cops weren't returning fire yet. Alan wondered why. Gotham cops weren't known
So
for their
many
strength.
angles. Why did I do this to
No
myself?
police barricades had been erected, so the car entered the square without encountering any obstacles. Montoya killed the siren with the lights. Alan rolled his window down to get a better sense of what was going on. The smoky air smelled of cordite. Their headlights exposed the drama unfolding up ahead. A whole passel of costume freaks, most of them belonged in the Arkham Asylum, seemed to have taken over a three-story movie theater across from the cathedral, and were holding any number of terrified movie patrons hostage, along with a handful of uniformed cops. Alan guessed that the cops on the ground were reluctant to fire for fear of killing their fellow officers. He figured that the uniformed hostages had been unlucky enough to be the first cops on the scene. The Riddler stood atop the roof of the multiplex, surrounded by his criminal cohorts and their unwilling human shields. Embossed purple question marks were sewn into the fabric of his dapper green suit and bowler hat. Madness glinted in his eyes behind his purple domino mask. He taunted the cops below via a chartreuse bullhorn.
What stinks for living but in death smells good?
Nobody attempted to answer. Everyone in the square was too busy trying to stay alive. Alan brought his car to a halt, safely out of range of the perps' guns. He scanned the scene to find out who was in charge.
Anyone? Anyone at all? Come on, people! You can't be having that much fun!
Alan gazed through the windshield at the other freaks up on the roof.
No guesses? Very well, the answer is pigs!
The Riddler's partners in crime resembled refugees from a singularly twisted circus. The fisherman, wearing a purple wetsuit and blue rubber waders, wielded a titanium fishing rod as a weapon. An unarmed policewoman next to him was snared by an unbreakable polymer line wrapped tightly around her. A barbed hook lodged in her cheek. Murmur, a depraved serial killer, held a scalpel to the throat of another officer. The former surgeon had sewn his own lips together to curb his compulsive droning. Red Panzer, a neo-Nazi terrorist, wore a red SS uniform over a suit of high-tech body armor. A swastika was engraved on the forehead of his chromium steel helmet. With the energy cannon mounted over his right hand, he blasted apart one of the parked police cars. Burning shrapnel went flying in all directions.
Oh my God.
A pair of young women cavorted on top of the theater's marquee. Scantily clad in revealing halter tops and short shorts that looked like backup dancers in a music video, except for the AK-47 submachine guns in their hands. The body doubles fired wildly at the cops in the square, while gyrating around the kneeling bodies of their hostages. Fear showed on the prisoners' faces as the sultry assassins whooped it up. Despite their hoochie attire, Bonnie Hoffman and Carmen Leno were stone-cold professional killers. They threw out a stained glass window in the cathedral across the square. Colored shards of glass rained down on the police below.
Woo-hoo! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Woo-wee!
The two women high-fived each other. The ventriloquist, a meek-looking man with gray hair and bifocals, guarded the front entrance to the theater. Scarface, the dummy he was holding, a carved wooden replica of an old-time gangster, complete with a pinstripe suit and fedora, held a miniature toy machine gun to the head of a terrified hostage. Alan had no doubt that the dummy's toy fired genuine bullets. That was the way things worked in this crazy city.
You'll never take me alive, coppers!
The puppet's jaws moved up and down as the ventriloquist showed off by drinking a glass of water while the dummy spoke. At times like this, Detective Allen wished he had never moved to Gotham from Metropolis, where he had previously worked in homicide. You still got your occasional giant robot or mad scientist over in Metropolis. That's what Superman was for. At least Metropolis didn't breed murderous psychopaths the way Gotham did.
Lucky one.
Glimpsing the bat signal above the spires of the cathedral, Alan looked for Gotham's own resident vigilante, but apparently the Batman was occupied elsewhere. Granted, you almost never saw the Dark Knight unless he wanted to be seen. But if he was on hand now, he was taking his own sweet time getting involved.
He might as well be on the move for all the good he's doing right now.
Although he didn't spot Batman, someone else caught his eye. He scowled at the sight of a red-headed white guy standing beneath the arched entrance of the cathedral. Not as far as he could possibly get from the action, and still keep an eye on what was going on. The man puffed on a cigarette as he watched the other cops risk their lives.
Corrigan.
Alan was disgusted by the very presence of a crooked crime scene technician. He had to wonder how Corrigan expected to profit from this crisis. He was about to point out Corrigan to Montoya when something took his mind off the other men entirely. Without warning, a gigantic rock appeared in the sky.
Chris?
Montoya's dark eyes were as white as plates.
Please tell me you see that.
It was hard to miss. The stupendous rock, which was the size of a small mountain, hovered in the air above the city. It was roughly diamond-shaped, with jagged peaks at the top and bottom. Its craggy granite exterior reminded Alan of Challenger Mountain in Colorado, except for the fact that the mammoth rock, which had to weigh thousands of tons, was defying gravity right before their eyes.
Where the hell did that come from? And what's it doing here?
The monolith's abrupt appearance created a sudden disturbance in the atmosphere. The entire sky took on the blood-red tint of the moon. Fierce winds whipped up the smoke and glitter, creating miniature dust devils all around the square. Lightning zigzagged through the crimson sky, centering around the floating rock, which seemed to be coming apart at the seams. Blasts of eerie green fire burst from somewhere deep inside the crumbling monolith. Enormous chunks of stone flaked off from the craggy slopes. Solid sheets of rock plunged down onto the city. The howling winds threw a discarded pamphlet up against the windshield of their police car. Repent, exhorted large block letters. The end is upon us. Alan wasn't a religious man, but he suddenly wished he was home with his wife and kids. Then, the mountain exploded. Fiery fragments rained down on Gotham like a meteor shower.
Mother of...
Something crashed through the hood of the car, crushing the engine block. The windshield exploded inward, showering him and Montoya with safety glass. Alan threw up his hands to protect his eyes. No longer feeling safe in the car, he threw open the door and tumbled out into the open. The polluted air smelled of sulfur and burning flesh. Alan glimpsed chaos all around him. Stumbling forward, he almost tripped over a large chunk of smoking granite. He glanced down and found himself staring into the sculpted eyes of a grotesque stone head. A chill ran down Alan's spine. The carved stone face was ugly as sin.
Chris! Over here! Look at this!
Montoya was staring at the crumpled hood of the car. Alan hurried to join her. He expected to find another boulder-sized chunk of rock embedded in the hood, so he was startled to discover a human form lying atop the mangled metal instead.
Is that...
Captain Marvel.
Alan gazed down at the sprawled hero with confusion and growing alarm. Captain Marvel looked like he'd gone 9 rounds against some super-powered heavyweight. His broad face was bruised and nicked, with a split lip. His garish attire was torn and scorched in places.
Oh, that was a close one. Barely said the magic word in time.
Alan wasn't sure what Captain Marvel was talking about, but the hero's battered appearance spoke volumes. Marvel was supposed to be just as powerful as Superman, so who or what could have knocked him for a loop like this? And what was he doing in Gotham anyway? Fawcett City was his usual stomping grounds.
Are you all right? What's happening?
Captain Marvel slowly lifted himself off the demolished front end of the car.
The Rock of Eternity. He did it.
God, the proportions are horrible, but
The Spectre.
it's looking okay to me. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, because I think
Captain Marvel stared
we've got the picture.
at the sky.
I'm going to take a sip of my tea, step back for a second, see what else needs a little bit more detail, and then start to put a little bit of shade in there for it, because it's going to need a little bit.
Gazed down on Gotham.
Going to be a lot of different colours.
God.
Oh yes.
Dark green hood shadowed a stern white face that could have belonged to the Grim Reaper himself. A misty green cloak blended in with the dark smoke rising from dozens of uncontrolled fires and explosions. The huge face dwarfed the bat signal shining beneath it. Lightning slashed the crimson sky. Alan tried desperately to make sense of it all. What was Captain Marvel saying about eternity and a lizard and the Spectre? The veteran cop had heard stories about the Spectre. It was supposed to be some sort of crime-fighting ghost that had been around for decades. Some people said that it was the restless spirit of a cop who had been knocked off by gangsters back in the 30s. Others claimed that the Spectre was the ghost of a dead superhero. Alan had always figured that the Spectre was just a spooky legend.
Maybe I should have paid more attention to those stories.
Who? What is that? The Spectre. The agent of divine vengeance. But he's gone mad, unraveling all magic.
Alan shook his head in disbelief. Captain Marvel might as well have been speaking in tongues. The Spectre's image gradually faded from view, but the stormy red skies remained. Alan looked over at Montoya to see what she was making of this. She looked just as baffled as he was.
The wizard is dead. I don't expect you to understand, but my family may be in great danger.
Alan recalled that there was also a Mary Marvel and a Captain Marvel Jr.
I must go to them.
A growing knot of anxiety tightened in Alan's stomach. If even Captain Marvel was worried about his family surviving the night, what hope did anybody else have?
I'm sorry.
Alan had no idea who this wizard was, who had supposedly been killed.
Should I be taking a statement from him? Does it count as a homicide when a ghost murders a wizard?
Captain Marvel looked around the devastated square. Ambulances and fire trucks were on their way. Thick black smoke made it hard to grasp the full picture, but Alan could tell that the hero was reluctant to leave the disaster behind, even though he still looked too wiped out to really help. Captain Marvel leaned against the wrecked police car, barely able to stand on his own, his face almost as white as the Spectre's.
Go. Take care of your family.
Thanks.
Captain Marvel took a deep breath to steady himself. The two cops watched the injured hero ascend into the sky until he finally disappeared from sight. Alan hoped that, wherever he was going, Captain Marvel made it back to his loved ones in time. In the meantime, Gotham City was on its own. Alan drew his service revolver from beneath his trench coat and tried to take stock of the situation.
Okay.
Montoya did the same.
Son of a bitch.
The magical meteor shower had pretty much upstaged the hostage crisis. Looking around, Alan saw that the movie theater had taken a direct hit from the falling rubble. Smoke and flames rose from the wreckage of the demolished multiplex. His heart sank when he thought of the cops who had been held captive inside the building. It was too much to hope, he knew, that the Riddler and his cohorts had also been flattened by the falling debris. Freaks like that had more lives than Catwoman. Cathedral Square looked like London during the Blitz. The acrid smoke stung Alan's eyes. He choked on the fumes, his nose and mouth overpowered by the smell of brimstone. Lifeless limbs protruded out from beneath immense fragments of rock and chunks of fallen masonry. Deep craters surrounded the larger boulders. Apparently, the catastrophe had not brought a complete end to the hostilities. Wrecked cars and vans had been tossed about like discarded playthings, landing upside down or on their sides. Their shredded tires spun uselessly in the air. Alan caught a whiff of tear gas in the air, and emergency vehicles were converging on the site. All because something called the Rock of Eternity decided to blow up right above the city.
Guess it wasn't so eternal.
Oh, alright, so I have to stop there and record. So give me a second. I'm just going to press record here, and I will be back. Alexa, stop. Alexa, set me 50 minutes on a timer.
15 minutes, starting now.
Every time. Alexa, set me 50 minutes on a timer.
Second timer, 50 minutes, starting now.
Let's see how far we can get.
Bullet for you. Corrigan, you son of a bitch! Just my luck, you survived the disaster.
I'm not joking, Detective Allen.
The dirty cop's Glock was aimed at Montoya's unconscious body.
Don't give me an excuse to blow the bitch's head off.
Alan remembered all the times Montoya had put herself on the line for him.
All right. What's this all about?
Corrigan smirked as he turned his gun on Alan.
Like you don't know that already. You've been snooping where you don't belong, Detective. You should have kept your nose out of my business.
That's all you have to say to me?
Alan wondered if Corrigan had come to Cathedral Square looking for him and Montoya in the first place.
Your timing sucks, by the way. In case you haven't noticed, we've got a major situation here. There are fireballs raining down on Gotham, for Christ's sake. The city needs every cop it has right now.
Yep. Perfect, isn't it? In all this carnage and confusion, who's going to notice one more dead police officer? Goodbye, Detective Allen. You should have stayed in Metropolis.
No. The faces of Dory and the kids raced through Alan's brain, even as he turned to run. Crispus Allen was dead before the first ambulance arrived on the scene. The old refinery had been shut down for decades. A closed sign was posted on the barbed wire fence enclosing the deserted complex. Rust and graffiti covered the empty distillation towers and storage tanks rising from the concrete floor of the refinery. A complex network of steel pipes connected the tanks and towers to various factory-sized processing stations. Padlocks sealed the closed metal shutters and gates. Silence reigned over the derelict facility.
Place feels like a gosh darn ghost town.
Uncle Sam was dressed entirely in red, white, and blue. He was the spitting image of the iconic World War I recruiting poster. A striped top hat rested atop his head. A short white beard tufted his chin. The living embodiment of America, he led his team of superpowered freedom fighters through the sprawling complex. He glanced up at the night sky, which had taken on a strange reddish hue. The crimson tint gave him an uneasy feeling.
I haven't seen a sky like that since that big crisis a few years back. Step lively, people. Our country's counting on us.
Unlike other super teams, the freedom fighters reported directly to the U.S. government, just as they had ever since the Second World War.
We've got an important job to do here, fighters.
Raiding an abandoned oil refinery?
The Ray didn't seem convinced. Glowing like the sun, the young man flew beneath the branching pipes. Like his father before him, Ray Terrell could transform himself into a being of pure energy.
We haven't slept in 48 hours, Sam.
Uncle Sam understood the youngster's exhaustion. He had heard similar complaints at Valley Forge over 2 centuries ago. Defending America could be a tough job sometimes.
The boys and girls in D.C. picked up a message between the Silver Ghost and Mirror Master. Those vermin held some kind of meeting on this spot 2 days ago before ditching it. We're to sweep the area, and I'm hoping we find a hint of what this blamed secret society of supervillains is fixing to do next.
If they left a trail, I will find it.
The winged hunter known as Black Condor bore his usual taciturn expression. Enormous red pinions sprouted from his naked back. His long black hair gave him an untamed barbaric look, as did the leather straps crossing his bare chest. A silver throwing knife rested against his hip. Phantom Lady, a shapely brunette, searched the shadows through a pair of tinted yellow goggles.
Well, one thing's for sure. These terrorists aren't getting together to share fashion tips.
Delilah Tyler's own costume had been expressly designed to show off her curves, and then some. The backless, yellow silk bathing suit was cut all the way down to her navel. A green cape, gloves, and boots completed the ensemble. The provocative outfit was guaranteed to distract any red-blooded male opponents, something Dee fully took advantage of.
Though Mirror Master could use some. I mean, what's with that padded green head mask?
Walking beside her, Damage seemed less inclined to poke fun at their adversary's attire.
Why us?
The brown-haired teenager Grant Emerson was the most normal-looking member of the team. With his blue jersey and gray trousers, he could have easily been mistaken for a high school athlete.
Why not Superman, or maybe the Justice League?
The brass said there was some kind of explosion on the moon tonight.
The human bomb's voice was muffled somewhat by the bulky white containment suit that covered him from head to toe. The thick fibrowax fabric kept him from blowing things up by mistake.
They're probably dealing with that, and with what Wonder Woman did to Maxwell Lord.
He shrugged beneath his suit.
Not that I blame her. Back in the war, sometimes your hand was forced.
That don't make it right, Roy.
Uncle Sam and the human bomb had fought beside each other during World War II, so he knew where Roy Lincoln was coming from. Like America herself, they had needed to get their hands dirty on occasion. That didn't mean that every death didn't weigh on his conscience.
I hope the day never comes that I resort to deadly force without a sense of profound regret.
He prayed that Wonder Woman still felt the same way. Forcing his mind back to his mission, he searched the darkened facility for evidence of the supervillain's activities. Flying overhead, the ray provided more than enough light to see by. Uncle Sam's keen eyes zeroed in on a large iron door guarding the entrance to one of the refinery's many fuel processing plants. The painted metal was in markedly better condition than the rest of the plant. He pointed out the barrier to the others.
Take a gander at this door here. Not a speck of rust on it.
He rolled up his sleeve.
I reckon there's a reason.
Uncle Sam's strength was proportionate to America's faith in her ideals. The freedom fighters rushed into the building. They found themselves in a large antechamber with a high ceiling and a scuffed tile floor. Metal drums were lined up against the walls. Steel pipes and valves ran above their heads. A no smoking sign warned of flammable materials. Cobwebs and rat droppings were conspicuously absent. Only a few yards in, they ran into another obstacle. A lattice of ruby laser beams blocked their way. The high-tech mousetrap encouraged Uncle Sam that they were on the right track.
Pretty fancy security for a place that's supposed to be abandoned.
Motion sensors.
Phantom Lady reached for the bracelet containing her black light projector.
But they're nothing I can't trick.
The rays zipped past her.
Don't bother going invisible, Dee. Light's my thing.
The Ray's luminous hands reached out and took hold of the crimson light beams as though they were solid. He neatly pulled them apart, as easily as opening a curtain, until he had created an opening large enough for the entire team to pass through.
After you. Phantom Ladies first.
Have I told you how cute you are when you try to act heroic?
Only once or twice.
The Ray beamed. Literally. Beyond the lasers, they discovered another doorway, large enough to pass a 747 through. A pair of heavy steel doors barred their way. Black Condor frowned at the barrier.
Something beyond these gates resists my thoughts.
Besides flight, Ryan Kendall's gifts also included telepathy.
Mighty suspicious. Wonder what the society went to so much trouble to hide.
Hey, you want to be impressed, Dee?
Damage swaggered.
Oh dear, yeah. Well, I think I found what I wanted. I think this was what was circling around in my head last night. Let's give that a pause. Right, okay. So that's part 2. Hopefully you are enjoying that audiobook, but I definitely have found the thing that was circling and swashing around in my head last night. This dude with one huge arm, it's working in a restaurant, and he's just overworked, but he's good, just overworked because his one arm is bulky than the other arm, and that's my my contribution, I think, with ink pen. I'm gonna put a little bit of shading in here and see what I can do, because I want to color this one in, because like I was saying at the beginning of this whole series, that I regretted not coloring in a lot of the pictures from last year. So what I'm doing is I'll color them in after the live stream's finished, because this will be, once I finish today, the like I said, the picture for today. But I want to put a little bit of shading in there. So let's get those shading pens that I've got and put a little bit more detail in with a little bit more shade. And you can listen to a little bit more of that. I'm going to have a slurp of tea. Have another pick of me sweets, because I'm saying if you've got to concentrate, I'd like to have something either chewing or with like a hard-boiled sweet or something. Just for something to keep me going. So, got another one. But I like these. Clean your hands and wear a mask, because you must do in these times. Even though you go to a restaurant, you want to make sure that you wear a mask and clean your hands at least. Definitely wear a mask, because you do want to get it, or do you want to give it to somebody else? That's the whole idea of it. In a restaurant, I don't really understand the whole concept of being able to sit in a restaurant now, but days are gone by where I used to be one, and I'm very glad I'm not working in one now. I do enjoy doing this, and if you are also enjoying it, guys, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and blindly forget that I said that. Let's get going.
There.
Our powers aren't the kind you show off with, kid.
He carefully removed his right glove. The exposed hand glowed with explosive energy.
Just brushing up against this skin is like a grenade going off.
Damage's cocky attitude evaporated. He looked embarrassed to be corrected by the older man, whose powers were very similar to his own.
I know, Mr. Lincoln. I was only...
Good to hear it. Now the rest of you better cover your ears.
He wasn't joking. The same experimental potion that had prolonged Roy Lincoln's life ever since the 40s had also endowed him with the ability to generate tremendous biochemical explosions with just a touch. Now the human bomb drove his naked fist into the solid steel doors. The detonation blew the doors off their hinges, exposing the darkened chamber beyond. Straining his eyes, Uncle Sam glimpsed the shadowy outlines of dormant pipes and furnaces. As the human bomb stepped back from his handiwork, Black Condor took point. The avian hero's brow furrowed in concentration as he peered into the gloom, telepathically scanning the scene ahead.
Let me swatch page.
An alarmed expression came over his face, but before he could explain...
Great Scott!
The fatal beam lit up the room beyond, exposing the sneering face of a purple-skinned alien with an inhumanly high forehead and a pencil mustache. Uncle Sam instantly recognized Sinestro, Green Lantern's archenemy. A golden power ring glittered on the alien's finger, and he wasn't alone. The lights flicked on, and the freedom fighters found themselves outnumbered by a strike force composed of 9 of the world's deadliest supervillains. Alongside Sinestro, Uncle Sam recognized Dr. Light, a malevolent scientist whose light powers made him shimmer almost as brightly as the Ray. Deathstroke, the Terminator, reputedly the planet's most lethal assassin. Zoom, the Reverse Flash, the fastest villain alive. Dr. Polaris, the mentally disturbed master of magnetism. Metal shards orbited his armored fists, and crazed eyes peered out through a slit in his purple helmet. Black Adam, Captain Marvel's evil counterpart. He levitated above the floor, his brawny arms crossed atop his chest, gazing down on the heroes in contempt. The Psycho Pirate, a twisted lunatic capable of manipulating the emotions of others. A featureless golden mask concealed his face as he lurked behind the other villains. Physical confrontations were not his specialty. The cheetah, half woman, half jungle cat. Spotted fur coated her lithe form, and her polished fangs and claws gleamed. A feline tail flicked behind her. Bizarro, an imperfect duplicate of Superman. A backward S was emblazoned upon his chest. His chalky white face grinned inanely, the mineral-like texture of his skin betraying his artificial origins. Bizarro waved a hand in greeting to the stunned freedom fighters.
Goodbye.
We've been set up. Fighters, don't hold back.
Uncle Sam scooped up his top hat from where it had
Oh,
fallen.
I'm trying to shade, so I don't know I did that.
There was no time to call out any further orders. Black Adam soared toward him, his fists upraised, and Uncle Sam found himself locked in combat with the ancient Egyptian despot. Tough Adam had been the wizard Shazam's first superpower champion, until he'd used his abilities to conquer the very people he was supposed to protect. Uncle Sam was more than happy to exchange blows with Black Adam. He never could tolerate a tyrant. At the same time, he tried to keep track of his fellow freedom fighters as they charged forward to engage the enemy.
Foolish boy.
Dr. Light sneered at the ray. An effulgent glow surrounded the cloaked villain as he somehow tapped into the Radiant Hero's own solar power. The ray fell.
I don't think I'm going to need to shade too much in this one, guys. That's 15 minutes. But I don't think I'm going to need to shade. Alexa, stop. I don't think there's going to be need of... Alexa, stop.
Matched his malignant soul. A bullpen feast.
Thank you. I don't think that there's going to be much need for shade here. It's going to be different tones of the same colour, I think, on this one. So, other than outlining it, blacklining it, I don't think there's much else I can do. I don't want to go around outlining everything and making it all pop, because I want to have different stages. So doing that around the front here has helped make that look like it's more behind. But I want to kind of maybe thicken up the lines here, but darken the lines instead of thickening the lines. Where is my bloody pen? There it is. More things like, because I'm looking at it, and I like the little scratchy lines that I've left, but they still need a little bit of pop to them. And it's just little bits here and there. It's all to do with light sources. That's what I'm thinking now. Just little things like that. Because I'm never finished. Maybe I'm missing a few lines here and there, but trying to deepen the lines, darken the lines a little bit. Because this arm just looks odd. Shading. Because I can't think of it. There is no natural light source, so I'm thinking, where would the light source be? Because it would be everywhere, to be honest with you, in a restaurant. Because you've got lights in the kitchen, you've got lights coming from wherever you're serving from. So, I mean, the light here, is it light here? Is it light here? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. Or should I just do a cartoon? Because I just messed that up. Woo! Messed it up. Go back in with my fine liner, I think. Make a difference between the clothes and the arms. We're an idiot. There we go. That's a bit better. Twonk. Oh, messed that up again. Oh, yeah, messed that too. Right, cobbly chobbly. Let's not make that. Let's make that. There we go. We could put an ear in here somehow. There we go. Go his ear. Mouth. Yum. Yum, yum, yum. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting there. We're getting there, we're doing it, we're really... Come on, you know you want to do it properly for me, that's it. Nice lines. Lines, love them. Picking these lines up a little bit. Give me a bit more wrap up. Try and make him look. That's it. That'll do with a little bit of a swash there. There we go. Stop outlining everything. Just trying to show stuff, and it's not sure if I'm doing it. The little bit you do there, you think, oh no, I should have done something else there now. Ah, crap. Now I've missed that bit. Now that doesn't look like it should be where it should be. Because I'm trying to make a scacky area. Oh, yeah, with tiles. Nah, forget the tiles. Under scacky area. They're never clean, by the way. They've never got nothing underneath. They've always got some sort of crap or goo. What now, as people are calling cam chow or whatever. No, not cam chow. What am I talking about? Compoi? Oh, I don't know what it's called. You brew it, and it's like gone off water, basically. Sludge. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you eat that? Disgusting. Hair or no hair? I think I'm going to give him a little bit of a wisp. Yes, perfect. Right, okay. As for shading, like I said, I don't think it's going to be needing because there's going to be lots of grey area anyway in here. So I think I'll leave that as my illustrated finished picture as for the Inktober 2020. But I will be colouring it, and I will be doing that later on. I am now going to be going doing some other things. Cooking my own tea, because this has kind of put a little bit of a hunger in me. Walk the dog, because she keeps flapping around me, because it is 6 o'clock now. So hopefully you've enjoyed the later episode of Inktober today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ding the bell for notifications, and I'll be back tomorrow for episode 3, or day 3 of Inktober 2020. Today was bulky, tomorrow something else. Find out what that is tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Click the links that will appear if you're watching back. Hit that subscribe button. Ding that bell for notifications. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.